Well, Razorback fans, we know Razorback basketball is going to be here before we know it. And one of the exciting things is not only this year's team, but in addition to next year's team. One of, if not the best players in the country. Is he really that good? Let's talk about on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, Pod at the Palace edition. I am John Neighbors, got Curtis Wilkerson alongside. And Curtis, you get questions thrown to you all the time about the basketball team each and every day, but it's far away. But when you're able to get a player like Darius Acuff, man, that's somebody that everybody starts paying attention to, where they want to have excitement for this season, but it makes you feel pretty good having that safety net for next year, having a player like him.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, I hope that it resonates with Razorback fans just how big of a coup this is for John Calipari and the Hogs. I know you've talked about him on your show before and his commitment, but I think it's a bigger deal than maybe people are even letting on. And it's a really big deal because he's one of the best players in the country. Like you mentioned, the incoming freshmen this year, they're really, really good. I mean, Boogie Flan, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, really good players. Thrilled to have them. But we do know that they were all committed to Cal at Kentucky, and he moved headquarters and they moved with him, right? And that's fine. That's cool. Happens all the time when a coach takes a new job. But to me, landing a guy like Darius Acuff, it sets the tone for 2025. It just kind of makes a statement in terms of, what's to come and what can be expected on the recruiting trail for Coach Cal and what he's capable of doing at Arkansas. His first visitor in the 2025 class since taking that job becomes his first commit. I think it speaks volumes about what he's going to be able to do here, because you've heard a little bit of, well, how much did the brand of Kentucky play into what Coach Cal was able to do as a recruiter? And that's fair to ask that question, but for him to bring 3 of his 5 stars with him and then turn around and start the 2025 class with the top guard in the country, I think you get the answer to your question. Coach Cal is his own brand, and he's going to get whoever he wants, and it's off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, just looking at the ratings and everything, this is according to 24/7 Sports. He is the number 4 player nationally. He is the number 1 point guard in the country. And ironically enough, the number 2 player in the state of Florida, which I always find is funny because the basketball, I feel like it just shifts all around. And people playing at academies and like him at IMG Academy is one of them. But, just to have a player like that commit this early in the process, I feel like in basketball, maybe more so than any other sport, that automatically sets it up to where Arkansas, as long as Cal is a coach, you're going to have great recruiting classes. Yep. But this to me just opens up to where it's like maybe the number 1, 2, or 3, or the 5 or whatever player says, "Oh, he's going to Arkansas. Oh, well, man, I'd love to play with this guy because of how good he is. Yeah, I'll join him too." It just seems like it sets a great foundation for the other players that you're going to be being in the recruiting class. Because I guess maybe I made this up. I feel like Cal says he's just bringing in like 3 players at a high school usually, but still, it just sets it up to where it's like, hey, if you got this guy, you're going to get some other big time players too.
Yeah, for sure. I think it kind of sends a statement to the other coaches across the country too. I mean, think about who Arkansas beat out to get this kid Acuff. We're talking about Bill Self at Kansas. We're talking about Danny Hurley, the back-to-back national champs at UConn. Dusty May, who's taken over at Michigan. Those are some heavy hitters right now. I mean, that's good company to be in, and those are the wins that you want to get. So for Cal to come to Arkansas and be able to do that right away, it just, it does. It sends that message of, hey, different color on his shirt, but the same results are coming, So like you mentioned, I mean, Acuff, this is a dude who's the top ranked guard in 2025. And this is a loaded class compared to 2023 and 2024 for what it's worth. He's also the 3rd highest rated commit to Arkansas in the modern rankings era, which dates back to about 2000. Trivia time, John, can you name the 2 who are ahead of him, the 2 higher rated commits for Arkansas?
I'd want to say Nick Smith.
Ding, ding, ding. That's one.
Okay. And And this is a guy that I didn't even play at Arkansas, but I'll never forget because thought it was so cool that he committed, but then he went to the NBA. It was Al Jefferson. Was he the other one?
You nailed it.
Excellent.
Yeah, good work right there.
I
Yeah,
know about all the players that either didn't play or barely played at Arkansas. I'm good on those.
That's right. Nick Smith Jr., Al Jefferson, Darius Acuff. I mean, that's pretty good company there. For what it's worth, Boogie Fland is 4th on that list. So that's cool. And Carter Knox and Billy Richmond are both in the top 10. And we're talking about a list that includes, all those guys that must wind up bringing in, and Jordan Walsh, Anthony Black, and all those guys. So it's pretty impressive, to come in and get one of the best recruits in program history in the modern rankings era right away. That's pretty good. That's pretty good work. And you're right, man. It sets the foundation and sends a message to other coaches. It sends a message to the other players. Hey, Arkansas might be the spot.
Well, also too, I think it's been so unique. We're trying to compare it because that's what we always do with just what we know, and comparing it to previous players and whatnot. Like when I think of just the modern era, we can say past 30 years or so, like Corliss Williamson was a bona fide 5-star, one of the best players in the country. Okay. Joe Johnson was like a 5-star bona fide dude. You mentioned Al Jefferson, mentioned Nick Smith. And then like after that, it just really shows you the type of player that they are maybe not once in a generation, but just very few and far between. Like, because you've had some great players. Like Bobby Portis was a great player, but that dude, he wasn't like a bona fide top 5 player coming out of high school.
Yeah, he was outside the top 15, I think.
Yeah, and in fact, depending on where you looked, some people had him as, I think he started as like a 5-star, and maybe they bumped him down to a 4-star, something like that. But still, it just shows you that these types of players, they're very few and far between. And so if you're able to get one of these guys, regardless of where they're from or regardless of how you did it, it really makes it just that much sweeter when you're able to. I know it's a commitment and anything can change, but
sure.
I just have a hard time believing that he's the type of player that went through that whole process and is going to change his mind. But never know with these 18, 19-year-old kids and what they're going to end up doing. We'll talk about what's next though for some Razorback basketball here in a bit. But we got to tell you, of course, about our friends over at FanDuel. We love sports, and we know that with the Olympics that's been going on and everything, that's all well and good and great, but football season is really what we're looking forward to, and that's going to be here before we know it. And even with NFL exhibition games and whatnot, hey, you can still get to betting on it with FanDuel. But this summer, still summertime, you can get FanDuel to hook you up with all the great things like a boost or a bonus daily. They are able to do that for you. It's something for everybody, every day, all summer long. So check it out by heading over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. It's FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so continuing on with what's next for the Razorback basketball team in 2025. It's kind of crazy, Curtis, because, we talked about the roster. It's kind of completed and the excitement's still there and everything, but it's like Cal and his staff, they're still going to be making moves, making plans for the future and everything. So what is next?
Well, I mean, honestly, I wish Darius Acuff was next. And what I mean by that was I don't want to gas up a commit too much, but I think he could play for this Arkansas team right now. I think he's that good. He still has a year of high school left. I mean, if you're scoring over 20 a game on the Nike EYBL, you're pretty darn good. And he's got that USA basketball experience with the U18 team. Man, he looks the part. And I wanted the opportunity to rave about him a little bit because he's got such a strong physical frame. Like, I just think it translates to the SEC really well. He's a guy who has been pretty open about, he likes to model his game after certain players. Yeah. Some of the guys that he mentions, Allen Iverson, Kyrie Irving, John Morant. I really think you can see those attributes in the way that he plays kind of off the dribble. His change of direction, some of the things he can do with the ball in his hands, it's crazy. He's a good decision maker. He's got good vision. I really hate some of the basketball cliches. One that gets on my nerves is he's a 3-level scorer. I just think it's really overused. Like, if a guy ever hits a mid-range jumper, people are saying, well, he can make a layup in a 3. He must be a 3-level scorer. But no, this guy can really do that. He can really get to his spots and is highly functioning really anywhere on the floor. So I like him a lot, man. He can get his shot off without much airspace at all. He's wired to score, but he's really, I mean, he can play some of his best basketball when he's setting his teammates up, and he can do it at a high level. So like it a lot. I mean, it's hard not to be fully locked in on this year's roster with all the talent, the new pieces, and the excitement for the season. But I mean, the future is really, really bright with Acuff on board as the foundation piece for Cal's, first full freshman class. And you're right, man. I know everybody's just thinking, okay, great, we got one on board. What's next?
Yeah. Well, and sticking with the Acuff thing too, that's also like the type of player that he can be. It's almost like, you hear about, oh, well, this class isn't as good as what next year's class is going to be, or this past year's class is going to be. So a 5-star of this class may not mean as good of a 5-star at this class. Like, I kind of look at it in this way, and maybe you could speak on it. If there was still the rule in place to where the one and done and all of that wasn't a thing, and you could still go to the NBA straight out of the high school to the NBA, is this a player that gets drafted high and ends up being a guy that can maybe build a franchise around? That's kind of how I've always looked at it. Is Acuff that caliber of a player where, maybe building a franchise around is a tough thing, but does he have all the makings to be a top 5 pick and be a team that wins the lottery, saying, hey, this is going to be the guy that we feel like is going to be a part of our future and trying to rebuild this franchise?
I think from a talent standpoint, he really could be. He's missing a little bit physically, and not from, like I said, he's got a strong physical frame. He looks like a grown man already, not super, super tall. So he really would, I think, need to be a point guard at the NBA level. And like I said, right now he's kind of wired to score. So how much is he going to evolve over the course of his senior year of high school in being a table setter, a distributor? How well can he play with pace? Because you got to juggle those duties there. If you're playing the lead guard role, he's got to get a little bit more motivated on defense. When he's locked in, like if it's crunch time, he can sit down and guard you, and you're not going to get by him. But you know how it is on some of those summer circuits. You get a little bit defense. I don't know. I might just save my energy to try to dunk on somebody in a minute. So, still got to get a little bit more well-rounded. If he brings those parts of his game together, people will overlook the height. And he's not it's not like he's walking around at 5'9" or everything like that. He's just not the 6'6", 6'7", 2 guards and wings that you see in the NBA. So he has to be able to do it at the one. But I think he's got all the stuff to be a future first round pick, lottery pick type of guy. And that's saying a lot, because some of these dudes in the 2025 class are, you talked about generational talents. They really are, some of these guys. It's kind of crazy how loaded, especially at the top of this class, that we're really looking at here.
And also know that Hog fans don't seem to be as into like pro NBA basketball as they are college basketball, which is fine. But it's amazing how if you have more players that are connected to Arkansas, like they played here in the NBA, people get a little bit more interested. Like Jordan Walsh didn't really contribute much to the Boston Celtics this past year, but hey, he played at Arkansas and he won an NBA title, and that was interesting to people. And now you got, of course, Bobby Portis, who had won an NBA title. Daniel Gafford played for the Mavericks for an NBA title. And, whether we'll see what Nick Smith does or Anthony Black does. But the point is that if the more guys you have in the pros that are affiliated with Arkansas, it's going to be something for recruiting, but it's also going to be something of pride of just being like, hey, come here, look at all the players we have, look who's all represented. It just means a lot, just like Kentucky has had it with Cal the past few years too. It's been a big deal for them. But we're going to continue on here with the Locked On Razorbacks Pod at the Palace edition in just a second. But folks, I got to tell you about the Gametime app. We all enjoy going to sporting events. We all enjoy going to concerts, comedy shows, all that good stuff, especially here in the summertime. Well, the thing is that you need a thing called a ticket. That's how you get in. That's kind of the whole point, is you have to have a ticket. And you always want to be able to save the most money and get the best deal, get the right price. That's what Gametime is here for you. They have last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off last-minute sports, concerts, comedy, theater, anything. And they also have flash deals where you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. And the most important thing, at least to me, is that they have the all-in pricing feature, where it's not something where you click on your ticket and then you go through 5 steps and suddenly your ticket is doubled in price because of a lot of hidden fees. The ticket price that you see up front is the one that it's going to be the rest of the way. So you don't have to worry about having any sort of hidden fees, anything like that. So just take the guesswork out of buying any of your sports tickets or comedy shows, concerts, anything. with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, before we wrap up here for not only the Pod at the Palace edition of Locked On Razorbacks, but also for the week here on Locked On Razorbacks, what's going to be next for us is probably talking more basketball next week. But next for the Razorback basketball team, I mean, where do they go from here? That's kind of the thing. It's like what can be done, what can be had moving forward.
Well, we're going to find out if Coach Cal is a man of his word or not, right? Because we've just grown accustomed to him loading up on freshmen. I mean, he'll take 6-7 guys and turn 4 of them into pros. It seems like every year. But he's been pretty open about not wanting to do that anymore and not feeling like you can do that with the way that the game has gotten older. Need to retain some guys, need to hit the transfer portal more. He was using the number 4 quite a bit in the press conference he had the other day in terms of how many freshmen that he wanted to bring in. So you got one on board. Who could be those other guys? It's interesting because this is evolving. It's moving really quickly. It's usually the transfer portal that moves really quickly. But when you get past the grassroots season and Peach Jam ends and these players are transitioning from summer ball to their senior year, a lot of them just kind of want to make decisions. That way they can just enjoy their senior year of basketball. So some of it can happen sooner rather than later. You'll start to see some visits pop up. But in terms of who's next, there are 2 names I think right now that pop out to me the most. Caleb Wilson being one and Malik Thomas being another. I feel pretty comfortable right now calling Arkansas the leader for Wilson. And that's a good thing because he's a 6'9" power forward and he's the number 6 prospect in the country. So, another 5-star McDonald's All-American type, whatever.
No big.
Now he is visiting Bama and he is visiting Kentucky. He has already visited Kentucky once, but he did that when Cal was there. He went to the Big Blue Madness thing with him last year. So this is a guy that Cal's been on for a while. I'd imagine he's going to make his way to Fayetteville for a visit too. Seems like Arkansas is in a really good spot there. With Malik Thomas, kind of fascinating. He's another 5-star top 10 guy. What's interesting with him, John, is the popular thought most of the summer was Arkansas, they could get Darius Acuff, they could get Malik Thomas, but they're probably not going to get both. Well, not so fast. All right. Not so fast. Arkansas made the cut for him, the top 7. That doesn't always mean anything, those list cuts, but they need to get a visit rescheduled with him. But I think Arkansas is in this one maybe a lot more than people thought a few weeks ago. Definitely one to keep an eye out for. I would watch out for UConn and Kansas. Arkansas has already won a recruiting battle there against those 2. But that's a guy who I think Arkansas's got a very realistic shot at. So if I had to pick 2 right off the top, those would be the 2 guys. But then there are some other ones here that, I know people are really excited about and probably want to know if Arkansas has a chance for as well. So,
well, I'm just going to look at it arrogantly and just assume that any player that Arkansas wants, they're going to get. And then any player that they don't get is like, they didn't want him anyways. Hey, listen, when you got the chicken man, I mean, anything's possible these days when you got the chicken man.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100% true. And it is interesting because we got so used to things with Muss where he was contacting 300, high school kids every year. And you really had to kind of filter through it and be like, who are they serious about? Who are they not? Who are they actually recruiting? Who are they not? That list for Cal is a lot smaller. And that's for a lot of reasons because of what you just said. Who he wants is who he gets for the most part. He'll lose a battle here and there, but not too many of them. So if he's wanting to take 4, you look at it right now and are they really even that serious about 7 or 8 guys? So he feels pretty good about his ability to close. They did miss the cut on the top overall player in the 2025 class, AJ DeBanza, which stinks because he's awesome. Okay. The same with the number 3 prospect, Darren Peterson, which is a little bit surprising because he visited Cal at Kentucky. So I thought Arkansas would at least make the list cut there. But maybe that's a situation where because they do have Acuff and they play similar positions, maybe it doesn't work out. A lot of people are curious about the Boozer twins. Carlos Boozer's got 2 kids who are really good. One of them is a big power forward. Another one is a shooting guard, Cameron Caden, probably a package deal. Not an impossibility for Arkansas. Like I wouldn't just automatically say there's no chance. It is unlikely though. So I think if Cal can get them to schedule a visit and get on campus, game on, man. Right now though, Duke, where Dad went, Miami, where they are probably the 2 in the driver's seat there. Man, just a couple names off the top. Arkansas's a finalist for Jasper Johnson. He's a Kentucky native. Don't necessarily see that one happening. Another Kentucky native that you do need to pay attention to, though, is Malachi Moreno. Could be one to keep tabs on here. He's the number 3 center in the class, 6'11", can shoot it a little bit. Here's what's interesting about him. He visited Arkansas last fall when Muss was here. And he's been to Kentucky and been recruited by Cal. So you have both of those connections there. He's also scheduled for a return visit in October. So if I had to pick a third guy on top of Thomas, on top of Caleb Wilson, Malachi Moreno would probably be it. People would be mad at me if I didn't mention the in-state guys. You know how it is. Arkansas, they're Arkansas kids. What I will say about Cal is he always seemed to get one home state commit. Reed Shepherd is a prime example of that. Travis Perry, who's staying at Kentucky, was a guy who was in that class before he left. Homegrown talents. So it's not a given, but it's always smart to keep eyes on a couple guys like Isaiah Seeley out of Springdale and Terron Burgess out of Benton, guys to keep, on that radar. And if Arkansas lands the other 3 that we talked about, maybe you don't go that direction, but if you miss on one, then, maybe you go to those in-state guys to round out the class. So a lot of options there. We'll see what happens with visits and everything like that. But we're talking about Coach Cal and his staff. They're going to be doing some big game hunting, deep sea fishing for Arkansas basketball. No doubt about it.
Well, that does it for us here on the Locked On Razorbacks Pod at the Palace edition. For Curtis Wilkerson, I am John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel next Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you then.